It's a beautiful day here in Elmhurst for Continental Cablevision's official kickoff of the 1992 football season. And an unusual kickoff it will be, as the reunion game between the Immaculate Conception Knights class of 1971 and the St. Francis Spartans of 1969. I'm Dave Owen, along with Micah Golnick and Dennis Morris up in the booth here with us for what should be, at the very least, a very interesting ball game.
I think this is great. A lot of people are out here. The stands are filled on both sides of the field for both high schools, and it's a good way of bringing a couple communities together and some people that have known each other for a long time. As Dennis will attest to, there are guys on both of these teams that have known each other ever since high school, maybe even before that. I think this is just wonderful.
Hey, we noticed before the game, even, Dennis, a lot of folks exchanging pleasantries who probably hadn't seen each other in quite a while.
A lot of these people went to grade schools even together, and some of them went to St. Francis, which at the time had separate boys and girls classes, and then IC was a parish school, but many of these, some of the families even have players like the Kevel family on both teams. So it's kind of an interesting matchup.
And we'll develop the ties between the schools a little bit later with Dennis. Not only Suburban Catholic Conference rivals over the years, but a lot of common links between them in other ways as well, as we'll develop as the afternoon goes along. St. Francis will be in the white jerseys, Immaculate Conception in the dark or blue jerseys, and IC will receive the opening kickoff.
And this is a no-contact kickoff. As you can see,
the kickoff is down at the 31-yard line of IC. IC takes over, 1st and 10.
Very short kickoff, and IC is going to take over at the 31-yard line. That's probably where a good 70% of the injuries happen, so a good idea for a game with players who haven't been on the gridiron in a while.
And Dave, not to borrow a title from a very popular summer movie, but I guess you could refer to this as Prelude to a Football Season.
Very good.
Thank you. That's my first one.
little tie into the cinema here, early fans, and
I'm very cultural.
As long as we don't start in with Cocoon or something like that, we'll be okay. We don't want to do that, as we are at the 30-yard line, 1st and 10. IC, and on the first play from the line of scrimmage, we're going to have a false start on Immaculate Conception. It would appear. The officials will confer to make it official.
And I wouldn't think that that'd be too surprising, because these guys have been looking forward to this game for such a long time, and you know that they just can't wait to make some contact. You know, the first time they played this game, a couple guys needed knee surgery, one guy broke his ankle, but they all wanted to come back, and that's what the spirit of this game's all about. These guys have been looking forward to this for months.
That first game in 1989 was kind of a bitter pill for IC to swallow. They lost 12-6. First play from scrimmage. Trying to sweep the corner and picking up about 2 yards was Tom Mullen of Immaculate Conception. He's down to about the 27-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 13.
Ball spotted at the 27-yard line.
Now, Dennis, do you think that even though we're a long way removed from when these guys were playing high school ball, but do you think their game plans are going to be somewhat similar to what they ran when they played at this game at this field?
Well, I think they might try a lot in the beginning, but when they get tired after a few quarters, they may go back to simpler plays.
Single back in the backfield. Mullen goes in motion. Back to throw Strasser. Throwing, flags are down. Mullen has it at about the 31-yard line, but a flag is down back at the 26-yard line. It was 2nd and 13. The pass picked up about 4 yards. It's going to be a holding call on IC, so that will nullify the game.
Well, Dave, this officiating crew is taking this game seriously. They're not letting these guys get away with anything. And again, the second penalty in the early going against IC, and as you mentioned, they want revenge in this game. Nothing short of out-and-out humiliation is going to satisfy Immaculate Conception in this game.
Dennis, if you could elaborate a little bit on that last game in 1989. IC requested this rematch, and apparently there was a tight finish that they nearly won the game, and it turned into a disappointing defeat.
Well, it was a very good game. Everybody was in pretty good shape. They were also 3 years younger, and there was a lot of hard hitting. There were more people. St. Francis was able to get more people to try it, I don't think anybody at that time felt they were going to do it again 3 years later. But it was actually a well-played game, except it was hot. And in the second half, most of the guys were getting pretty tired and even a little heat frustration. But today's a much more comfortable day, so it's more like an October day out here today.
The sun is shining, a cool breeze, though. A little more miscommunication. Strasser's going to have to keep it, and he's going to be bowled over at the 13. About 5 St. Francis tacklers got in there.
Yeah, a little miscommunication on that play. Joe Marzano, number 70 of IC, was pulling to his right, may have taken off a little bit early, and that kind of threw the timing of the play off. But again, let's be fair here. These guys haven't exactly had a lot of playing time together, and you can expect a lot of that. They have to go all the way to the 40, just outside the 40 for a first down. I'd pay to see this.
They've been working on the 3rd and 25 plays extensively, undoubtedly, preparing for just this situation. This is probably where you just send as many guys out and throw the ball up and see what happens.
A quarterback draw, that'd be interesting.
3rd and 24. No, he's going to throw the ball. Gets it off. Good one-handed grab by Mullen. He's got a little room down the sideline, up to about the 21-yard line. And that's where Mullen is dropped after a 6-yard pickup. So make it 4th down and a long way, about 20 yards to go.
That tackle was made by Jack English, who suffered a serious knee injury on about the 3rd play of the first game. So he's been rehabilitating himself for 3 years. He was a very good two-way player. He's in great shape.
That's what we were talking about. I mean, some of these guys, nothing would keep them from playing in this game. Again, the kicking game, whether it be kickoffs or punts, no contact.
There will be no runbacks on the kickoff.
Ball is fumbled and covered at about the 43-yard line.
Marty Nihill takes the ball.
Marty Nihill fielding the punt, and they're going to mark it, Dave, at the 37-yard line. So in the early going, you can say that St. Francis has the better of the field position. How's that?
Sounds good. Some good analysis here early.
Yeah. Well, you know, it took me like the last 2 days. When I found out I was doing a football game,
I
had to dig some of those terms out.
Yeah, you get all the terminology back in. And getting ready for the football season, you got the field position down, Pat, already.
We're right on the 50. We couldn't be in a better spot.
St. Francis is on the 37 of IC. No score. We played about 3.5 minutes. Dan Walsh, the quarterback, throwing sideline pattern off the hands, incomplete. Intended for Mike Fitzgerald. And it'll be 2nd down and 10.
Well, again, that was a situation where timing was just off by a split second. That was the type of play that sounded real good when they were talking about it before the game, but broke down just a little bit. Good job by Immaculate Conception, though, because even had they completed the pass to Fitzgerald, IC had a couple of guys waiting to pop them. Now, maybe not pop them, but just kind of nudge them out of bounds.
Gently remove him from the field.
There you go.
This is class of 1969 and class of 1971.
Yeah, there's not a lot of popping going on.
No, at least not on the football field. Handoff, 35. Still going down to about the 30-yard line. That's Mike O'Neill. A little like Larry Zonka there, just pulling his way forward and picked up about 7 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mike O'Neill looked like the perfect fullback on that play, the way he was protecting the ball. Was that his style when he played for St. Francis?
I actually used to play in the same backfield with Mike when I was playing halfback. He was a very good, very hard runner, especially in the open field. He was quicker then than now, but he's just as strong.
O'Neill's run sets up a 3rd and 3. O'Neill gets it again. Gets forward to about the 38, or the 28-yard line, rather. It's going to be very close to a first down, but maybe a little short.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a little short. Good job by the interior of the IC line, specifically Gary Seneke.
Steve Kettleman in that play. Pete
Conroy and Kim Mercado also right there to make the play, and 4th and 1 coming up. So O'Neill shut down on that attempt.
And they'll go for it. Why the heck not?
I think we'll see big number 40 get the ball again, too. He'll be the setback left in the backfield. behind number 1, Dan Walsh, the quarterback. 4th and 1. Long count. Oh, first back instead.
Pat face mask.
First down to about the 25. Flag will go down. Looked like a face mask as Pat Virtue picks up the first down.
Picks up the first down. There's a series of...
And Dennis, you were telling us before the game that Pat Virtue played college ball at the Naval Academy.
Yeah, Pat won a congressional appointment to Annapolis right out of high school, and he was 3 years on the varsity, and I think he tied or set the record for interceptions at Annapolis. When they were playing a lot of, just like now, a lot of big schools. He's in perfect condition. He was a carrier pilot when he got out of the Navy, and now he's a senior captain for Delta, flies for Delta. But he's been one of the big organizers, one of the co-captains, and he's been very involved in all the fundraising and organizing the practices and things like that.
Well, that penalty takes it half the distance to the goal line. Ball now at the 13. First down for St. Francis. 6:50 left in the first quarter, no score. St. Francis took over at the 37 of IC, and after one first down and a 12-yard penalty, they're on the move. This is Virtue again, trying to sweep. He's got some yardage. And down inside the 5-yard line.
Ball carrier with Pat Virtue. Brought down by
Pat was blocking by Rich Doria on the right side of that St. Francis line. Dennis?
Pat Virtue was also a track participant in high school, ran the high and low hurdles. He's very fast. He's bigger now than he was, as a high school kid, but he still has got. He's still in very good condition. As I guess you have to be an airline pilot.
Second down and 2 yards to go.
That ball actually now at the 5-yard line as IC calls the first time out of the game. Are they basically going with the usual timeout rules, or are there going to be more breaks in the action?
I'm not sure about the timeout, so I know they don't want anybody to pass out, so they're trying to be as liberal as they can be. Some of the referees came out to some of our practices just to explain some of the high school rules, like no double team blocking with somebody on a high-low situation. So they want to have a fun event, but trying to avoid any unnecessary injuries.
When did the practicing begin for this game in preparation?
Well, right around June 1st, they started working out twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday nights after work, and part of the being a participant is you had to buy your own equipment, which was then donated to the school. And last time, 3 years ago, I think they raised close to $20,000, which I think was split equally between the two schools. So it got them a lot of new equipment and also some money for the athletic department.
Boy, a great cause all around. And they're doing it again here today, 3 years later. St. Francis won the first matchup between the squads, and they're threatening to take the lead here as well. As we return to action,
41.
Handoff at Bowling forward, bouncing off one would-be tackler is Edway Saki, number 41. He got down to about the 3-yard line.
Oh, one thing I will say is that so far the St. Francis offensive line is controlling this game. St. Francis relying on the ground attack, and they can afford to do that when you're getting the penetration that the offensive line is getting. Again, that's been the big difference so far. When IC had their first offensive possession, you could see that they couldn't get anything going because of the defense of St. Francis getting in quickly.
It is 3rd down and 1 as marking the ball right about at the 4-yard line, and St. Francis has to get to the 3. Long count from Walsh. Handoff. Good hole on the left side for Virtue. He's down close to the goal line. No signal of a touchdown, though. It's first down inside the 1.
Ball is spotted at the 2-yard line.
And that roar you hear from the contingent of St. Francis fans again. Both sides, the stands almost full.
It'll be first and goal.
And a lot of folks standing on the sidelines as well.
I actually had to park a block away.
Really?
Yeah.
That'll teach you for being late.
I took a cab, though.
The Continental Cablevision limo is out on another assignment, is that right?
Yeah. The Pinto was being repaired.
First and goal inside the 2. Second back, that is Rick Sandberg. He is even closer to the goal line. You can't get much closer than they've been the last 2 plays, but they're nibbling away.
Don't you think that the only thing missing at this game are the cheerleaders from 1971 and 1969? Don't you think, Dennis, that they should have the cheerleaders here from those classes?
Now you're putting them on the spot.
I think so, but they declined the honor.
Oh.
Well, we do have the, at least it appears, the 1992 Immaculate Conception cheerleading squad.
And they're doing a good job, but, you know, we need some authenticity.
5 minutes left, first quarter. Walsh, O'Neill, he's in there, touchdown, St. Francis.
O'Neill in for the Spartans with the touchdown.
This is kind of similar to the first game where St. Francis came out,
Mike O'Neill scores the
and
first points
I
for
think
the
on the initial time they had the ball went about the same distance for a touchdown, but that block, the run was right over Paul Hudetz, who I remember I played with his older brother Leo, but Paul walked on at NIU and got a 4-year scholarship. He actually played 4 years on the varsity at Northern Illinois, and he didn't play in the previous game, so he's been a big addition. That's part of the reason the running game is going so well for him.
It's going to be a 2-point attempt here. Is it 6-0? From the 2.5-yard line, Walsh stops to throw. Good blocking, throwing. Great catch by Virtue, but he stopped short of the goal line, and the 2-point conversion fails. It'll be 6-0 St. Francis.
Broken up by Mark Saunders.
Well, Mark Saunders, number 42, made a nice play. Good timing. Just came in right at the right moment, and even though the catch was made by Virtue, Virtue could do nothing but turn around and get hit and fall down in that order. But you know what I've noticed in this game, Dave, that's very interesting, and I never doubted it, but nobody is taking this game lightly. I mean, maybe before the game people got together and shook hands and had some fun, but when St. Francis scored that touchdown, I looked down at the IC sideline, and there were no smiling faces. There's some pretty mad people down there, and meanwhile, on the other side of the field, the St. Francis people kind of recapturing glories of the past.
I think part of the reason why there's so much intensity down there is the way that last game went. They were stopped at the goal line late in the game by St. Francis, and that wound up losing 12-6 to Immaculate Conception. And it's probably been a bitter pill for the last 3 years, and they want to take this game very seriously and clear that blemish from the record.
Starting at the 30.
These are the 71 Suburban Catholic Conference champion IC Knights. Strasser, the lefty, going deep, incomplete. Virtue broke it up. Intended for Tim Cook.
Tim Cook falls incomplete. Virtue in on the
Well, not a bad idea, Dave, but unfortunately Tim Cook was, well, quadruple covered.
Yes, I was going to say.
He was surrounded. Not a bad pass, though, by Strasser.
The St. Francis scouting doing a fine job.
That's right.
Obviously, knowing that
sure.
Tim Cook is a receiving threat.
Well, they've been preparing. They've been following this IC team all over the place.
I think, I don't know if they have game films of Mr. Cook, but if they did, they were probably covered with about 16 inches of dust. 2nd and 10, Strasser, hands and nothing doing, is going down right at the line of scrimmage. Bill Beck.
Well, again, they tried a misdirection, and it's hard to get any yardage when the first person you hit is wearing the same color jersey you are. But I have faith that IC is going to get it together.
Well, you know, there's 8 minutes gone in the game, and a lot of importance can be placed on pacing yourself in a day like this and in a game like this. And exactly, you've got to pace yourself and have something left for the fourth quarter, and that's going to be important as well. Second back, and boy, what great defense by St. Francis. Fumble.
Rick Hoffman, the ball carrier.
As Rick Hoffman
2-yard pickup.
Was stopped right about at the 30 once again. As
ball was recovered by Rick Tarsitano, and well, again, I see pacing themselves. They don't want to be. They don't want to expend too much energy in the early going. You know, the temperature up here in the booth is, you know, probably about 75 degrees, but down there on that field, it's probably about 76.
It's usually the opposite. You're right. Boy, a little
It's a shorter man.
little meteorology going on. I like that, how you throw that in.
Only the kicker would notice that, right?
Actually, it might be a little cooler down on the field, though. It's a little stuffy up here in the booth. They have the breeze. As catching at the 49, and of course a fair catch is the St. Francis receiver, Dan Hansen.
Down on the 48-yard line of IC.
I think we got a good indication of the wind right there, Dennis. That punt actually got off his foot pretty well, and it just hit a wall and hung up there.
It just hung up there, and it's helping him keep the ball inside IC's territory. The first time they played this crazy game 3 years ago, St. Francis scored on the first 2 possessions, and then they kind of ran out of gas. It was a much hotter day. But with the wind here, I know they're going to try and score again quick before they have to change directions.
Will it be deja vu again?
We'll see, Yogi.
Uh-oh.
Fumble. It's still loose down there. Walsh reached for it, but I think he might have got it back on the second effort. Mark it at the 49.
It'll be second down.
And it will remain St. Francis ball. Second and about 11.
Well, I can tell you something. Those players down there, they may be a little older, they may be a little slower, but they're no less alert. Everybody pouncing on that football.
The eyesight hasn't gone.
Absolutely not.
Second and 11.
I saw a couple people dive and miss the ball, but they were pretty close.
Walsh with the split backs behind him. He's going to drop the throw. Gets rid of it, complete to Virtue. Spins off one tackle. Falls loose again, but he's got it back inside the 40. And I think he's got a first down.
It's funny, Dennis, because every time you see a game, I don't want to refer to these guys as old-timers, so I won't, but every time you see a game of alumni or whatever, you see 1 or 2 guys that look like they could still play today, and so far Virtue fits that category pretty well.
Well, Pat is he's a physical fitness nut. He was, when we were in high school, he was a little bit small. He played mostly safety. He was our punter, but now he's as big and faster as anybody out there, and he's just in great shape. So he's going both ways, and he was really been one of the big organizers behind it.
2:05 left in the first quarter. 6-0 St. Francis. They've had good field position on both possessions, and they've moved the ball as well. Walsh, short drop, throws complete to the 30-25. Oh, some good sidestepping and getting down almost to the 22-yard line. Marty Nyhill.
Well, Marty Nyhill, again, he still has the instincts to play the game. He caught that ball, knew that he had a defender flying at him, hesitated just enough to let that guy fly by, and he went on his merry way and made a couple nice moves.
As we're going to take another look.
Marty was actually...
well, no, we're not going to have the replay, as it turns out, as we are at the 23-yard line. Now here comes the replay. As fine play by Marty Nyhill. Number 5. The IC defender gave him the couple yards to make the catch. Obviously didn't want to overplay the ball and have Nyhill break it. But Nyhill made a fancy move to get away anyway. And picked up 14 yards to the 23 as we are back to live action, 1st and 10. Walsh again dropping, throwing through the hands, incomplete. Intended for John Urich.
John is also the director of financial development for St. Francis, so he had an interest in the game.
Yeah, he has
both
some
games.
vested interest.
He's the one who sends everybody letters every couple months asking for donations and having fundraisers of all sorts. So I remember he's married to I think Rick Sandberg's sister, so there's a lot of connections that go back. But Marty Nyhill was actually didn't grow much till he was in college. He's a tennis player. He never played high school football.
Oh.
And right now he's one of the best players in terms of being in shape. He plays doubles tennis with Bob Parsons, who used to be with the Bears.
That's right. The old punter.
Yeah.
Picks up a couple of yards down to the 20-yard line.
Well, Jack English dragged the tackler down to the 19. It'll be 3rd and 6 for St. Francis.
It's the first time we've seen somebody hit him high, up around the neck. A couple more like that, we could see a lawsuit.
Had a good stranglehold on him. Third down coming up here from the 19. probable passing situation once again for Walsh. Thrown the ball very well on this possession. He's back to throw again. Throwing, nearly intercepted and incomplete. Breaking up the pass, number 44, Mark Morgan. So it'll be 4th down and about 6.
Mike Fitzgerald is a sporting goods manufacturer's rep, and he helped with obtaining the equipment and uniforms, and he's married to one of Marty Nihil's sisters. So yeah, it's kind of a family picnic out here for a lot of people, with some families having brothers on both teams, like the Kevel family, and there's a Cullerton playing for IC. I went to school with Billy Cullerton at St. Francis. As a matter of fact, he had to be out of town or something and couldn't play this year. There's a good group of people that just kind of kept together over the years, and they've really taken these games very seriously, and they've been very successful as a fundraising vehicle also.
Well, you bet they're taking it seriously. I don't know if you gentlemen saw Mark Morgan after he made that play, but I think he started to envision himself standing under the dome in New Orleans. You know, he got pretty pumped up.
Yeah, very serious. Very frustrated he wasn't able to make that interception. And you mentioned the fundraising aspect, Dennis. They've got a great turnout here, and of course charging admission as well, and the concessions and everything. It's making for a very good day for both schools.
I wanted to mention, give a little free publicity to Jack O'Malley, who graduated from St. Francis and played on the football team in high school, and also the reunion one 3 years ago. He's running for Cook County State's attorney, so he bought an ad.
All right.
But he couldn't play.
You mentioned that he went to Immaculate Conception
He
as well.
actually went his freshman year at Immaculate Conception and transferred to St. Francis. So he's the only guy I know of who played and attended both schools.
Yeah, he could have played for both if he were here today. As the flag is thrown, they're not going to call him for delay of game or something, I hope. Let's not get too serious here.
Oh, my.
Oh, that's it.
Delay of the game call against the Spartans of St. Francis.
It takes a while to get up to the line.
5-yard walk-off.
Well, delay of game.
It'll now be 4th down from the
That's the equivalent of throwing a brushback pitch at a baseball old-timers game, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
As now at the 24-yard line, 4th and 13. Perhaps it's a strategy, though, to open up the passing lanes a little bit here. Already have long yardage. 2 split outs right. And split backfield behind Dan Walsh. 4th down. He's back to throw. Lots of time. Throwing over the middle. Knocked down. Incomplete. Good idea by Rick Hoffman, number 32. Just knock the ball down. IC's going to get the ball at the 24 anyway.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty heads-up play, because had he made that interception, he certainly would have been tackled right there, and he picked up a good 15 yards by knocking the ball down.
So IC gets the ball back. 26 seconds left first quarter. Walsh on that possession started out strong. 2 straight completions for 26 yards, but the last 3 were incomplete.
Yeah, Walsh he played quarterback in high school at St. Francis, and he's got a very good arm, but the only problem is that when you're practicing during the summer, you're not going against other people in pads, and I think they're going to end up going back to the running game out of necessity.
1st and 10, Don Strasser at quarterback for IC. 26 seconds left first quarter. Going in motion, Tom Mullen. Little early movement, and it will be called by the officials as the IC line, I believe the left side of the line, got a little early start on the blocking.
That's a shame, too, because that actually was shaping up to be a nice play. A quick 1-2 step drop, quick pass. Probably would have picked up a good 5, maybe even a first down.
1st down and 15.
Well, for those of you who are keeping score at home or who are interested in the scoring of this game thus far.
How do people keep score for a football game? I'm just curious.
That's true. It isn't like baseball. We have the nice box. And But regardless, that's the 3rd penalty on Immaculate Conception.
Okay.
Should I keep keeping track of that, or?
I'm sure
Is that
there's,
being a
there's
little
probably
too
no.
serious?
There's probably one guy somewhere who's interested in that, but and this is for him.
And that might be me who's that one person. 1st and 15. Strasser, the lefty, winds up and going deep. Oh, incomplete. Coverage on the play by Tom Martin. And Ray Quinlan was the intended receiver.
Quinlan. Ball's incomplete.
Nice job of coverage by Martin and Hansen coming over there in a hurry.
Hansen in on the break.
Especially Tom Martin, number 31, who was able to get into Quinlan's face.
Just shielded his view enough that Quinlan, who had a step or two on Martin initially, was unable to make the catch. 19 seconds left.
They haven't moved the ball much, but actually Don Strasser's thrown the ball fairly well.
He certainly
was right
has.
on the money.
He's got a very strong arm. 2nd and 15. We'll probably see him going to the airwaves once again here. Well, handoff instead, and St. Francis has shut down the run very well. Phil Beck tripped up there.
Line is scrimmage. No gain.
That was John Kevel who made the tackle, number 82. He was one of the big organizers of this. He's got his brother Jimmy playing with St. Francis, and his younger brother Steve Kevel playing for IC. So he's been one of the big organizers.
In fact, I think half the people in this game are probably in the Kevel family.
We are done with 1 quarter of play. Another 12 minutes to come before halftime. And St. Francis leading 6-0. We'll be back in just a moment here on Continental Cablevision.
Is it third down or second?
You wanna accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative.
Jake Steinfeld stars in Big Brother Jake with a house full of foster kids. Jill, Josiah, Katari, and the twins. Join the fun as they raise the roof with laughter on a new season of comedy on Big Brother Jake.
The role of CNN's Democracy in America team is to bring you election information you can use. Bernard Shaw, Catherine Cryer, Frank Sesno, Ken Bodie, and Brooks Jackson, all part of the most experienced team ever assembled to cover Campaign USA 92 on CNN.
Hello, I'm River Phoenix. I care about animals, so I got involved. You can too. Write me at PETA Kids, Washington, D.C., 20015.
Welcome back for the 2nd quarter as the reunion game between St. Francis of Wheaton High School and Immaculate Conception of Elmhurst. And IC with the ball, 3rd and 15 as we begin the 2nd quarter. Running a little option. Strasser misses connection with Mullen. Mullen's got a dive on it back at the 15. IC will get the ball back, but it'll be 4th down and long.
A little bit of a dangerous play that deep, and as a diehard Nebraska fan, I've seen that backfire a number of times in their games.
Seen it work a few times too, though.
Not against Miami.
Oh, you've got to remember the golden days, though, of Mike Rozier and.
Yeah, they lost to Miami too. So
they lost to Miami that time too. Sorry to remind you
that
of that.
That was the hardest loss of all.
4th down and 19. And in punting formation, high kick, going to come down at about the 37, and that's where it will be blown dead. Mark Morgan punting for IC. Dan Hansen making the fair catch for St. Francis. And St. Francis, their 3rd possession, and on each one they've begun in IC territory. The ball has yet to be in St. Francis territory in this game.
And Dennis, I bet you that Hansen wished he could have returned that ball because he had about 20 open yards to just do whatever he wanted before anybody would have been near him.
Dan's still very quick. He was kind of a scat back in high school. Matter of fact, he played on the varsity as a sophomore when I was a senior. And right now, one of the biggest factors is in the line is that Paul Hudetz, we used to call him Small Paul. He's my brother's age at right tackle. Has given him the ability to, I guess he's at right guard right now, but I think he's given him the ability to get off the line on the right side.
First down at the 38-yard line. Play action, throwing, great catch. And down at the 30-yard line.
That was Denny Hogan.
Juggling catch. He got one hand on it to keep it alive and then made the catch.
Yeah, that really was a fantastic one-handed diving catch. And what made it an even better catch is the fact that he knew he was about to get hit, and he still came up with the football.
Denny's about, I don't know, maybe 6'2", 230, and he's got hands like a plumber because he's a plumber. He owns Hogan Plumbing and Heating in Wheaton. But he's in good shape, and I thought they were going to use him more as a blocker, but he sure showed great hands on that play.
There we see our score, St. Francis 6, IC nothing. Second quarter here, the 1992 Alumni game.
And another one of these obligatory timeouts that comes shortly before dehydration or other medical emergencies. So take a look at some of the folks on the IC sideline talking things over.
And in the picture there, a gentleman with a white shirt is John Pageant, who is the first-year head coach of Immaculate Conception.
There's Paul Hudetz, number 70, and Denny Hogan, 81. They're both big-sized guys. Paul Hudetz, I mentioned, played at NIU for 4 years. He was a pulling guard, and he's in good shape. But he lives out in the Quad Cities now, so he hadn't been able to practice. But his showing up and being in such good shape has given him the ability to run the plays without getting rushed to death. I still expect him to run off the right side a lot more here.
And again, the gentleman whose voice you just heard, Dennis Morris from St. Francis, our resident expert on these two teams, these powerhouses.
Second down and 2. Hogan's great grab, putting St. Francis in good position. Virtue on the counter. Good defense by IC, in particular Mark Saunders, number 42, and Pete Conroy, number 51.
Yeah, pretty good reaction by Saunders and Conroy. That play looked like it could have opened up for a first down, and a good reaction by those two gentlemen.
Gain of a little more than a yard. It'll be 3rd and 1 with 10:20 left second quarter.
Dennis, one thing that's undeniable so far is that St. Francis, the timing looks a little bit more crisp than does IC.
Well, they practiced extensively Tuesday and Thursday nights and running the plays, obviously not with contact, but their timing was pretty good.
Split backs. Walsh on 3rd and short, going to throw deep, and nobody home. Missed
Walsh was
pattern
really
on that play.
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest hits we've seen today. Is number 63, Mike Urbick, came in and decked him.
4th and 1.
Walsh is up and ready to go again, though. 4th and 1 yard to go, and St. Francis will go for it. They lead 6-0. They scored on the first possession, a 1-yard touchdown run by Mike O'Neill.
Here we go, it'll be 4th and 1.
Capping off a 9-play, 37-yard drive. 4th down, split backs. They're going to O'Neill, toppled, and down he goes at the 30.
No way, no way. 30-yard line.
Steve Kevel on a real pro tackle.
And Steve Kevel, number 41, got down low and just capsized O'Neill right at the 30.
Steve scored the only touchdown in the first game 3 years ago for IC. He ran back a interception about 60 yards. So he's looks like he's still in pretty good shape.
There's Steve Kevel, great defensive play. And as I believe we mentioned earlier, he has a brother John playing for St. Francis.
And Jim Kevel is number 52, I think, or 53. Jimmy is 52.
Oh, you're right.
And Jim actually he teaches at one of the Glenbard high schools, but he also works as a line coach for St. Francis varsity. So he's been in athletics and coaching for a long time.
That's the 2 Kevel brothers on St. Francis and 1 on IC. And the rival on IC made the big play there to get IC the ball back. 1st and 10. Nothing doing there for Beck.
That was Paul Hudetz coming through on that.
The line is scrimmage.
And IC is not seeing much daylight in the center of that line.
They're not playing Hudetz both ways all the time, but I think they'll leave him in here to try and force a good position now. he's from a family of about half a dozen brothers, and they all were big and strong. He had one brother, I think, who played for Oregon. His older brother, Leo Uditz, played at NIU also, was co-captain when he was a senior.
Right. IC has run 7 running plays, and they're at -3 yards thus far. St. Francis shutting down the run. Here's Strasser getting some good yardage on the option, though. Gets across the 35 to the 36.
And that time, John Kevel, number 82 for St. Francis, came in and made a nice stop, wrestling Strasser to the ground.
3rd and 4 coming up. 8:25 left in the second quarter. IC breaks the huddle as we see the train coming by.
That's right.
Stopping in for a quick view here.
Ted Cook on the left side.
They're pulling right, and Mullen is pulled down in the backfield.
Again, that was Paul Uditz coming through. And he's strong and quick. He's still in pretty good shape.
Backfield for a loss of about 5.
They were trying to pull Joe Marzano, the left tackle, out to direct that run, but Mullen never got a chance. Good defensive play by Paul Uditz.
You know what's interesting to me, Dennis, is that some of these guys just have not lost the instinct. Uditz knew where that play was going to go. He knew where he had to be to meet the play, and that's very interesting. These guys still look like they know how to play the game.
Morgan will be back to kick.
Well, I know one of Paul's brothers was a heavyweight champion wrestling for the state at whatever level the smaller schools are. And that same brother had a tryout with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Morgan really boomed that punt.
Nice catch by Dan.
All the way back to the 33, and excellent catch by Dan Hansen. If that ball bounces, who knows how far it's going to roll.
That saves a lot of yardage just by catching.
And for the first time today, 5 minutes into the second quarter, the ball is in St. Francis territory, back at the 34-yard line.
You know, the last game we showed, as you see our score, St. Francis 6, IC nothing. You know, the last baseball game I did over at Fenton High School had train tracks to it. It seems like a new trend we've got here at Continental Cablevision. We like to do our games off the tracks.
Sometimes down at that end of the field, it can be hard to hear
sure.
signals when you got a freight going by.
Right now we've got 2. We've got one going one way and one going the other.
And all the guys hitching a ride on the one are saying, hey, we were watching the game.
That's right.
Where'd you come from? O'Neill.
Big Mike O'Neill.
Can be dragged down behind the line of scrimmage as IC getting his number of late. And the big fullback is pulled down.
Mark Sanders.
Steve Kevel once again, along with Mark Sanders.
O'Neill, loss of a yard. It'll be 2nd and 11 at the 33-yard line.
So O'Neill, who has scored the only touchdown of the game thus far, number 40, is pulled down for a loss of a yard there. Of course, Kevel, on O'Neill's previous carry, made probably the defensive play of the game, stopping him on a 4th and 1.
That's right.
Clock running, 6:35 left, first half.
Mike Fitzgerald for the Spartans.
Confusion in the IC defense. A lot of people moving around.
A little gimmick defense, perhaps here. Hansen throwing deep.
Kevel, oh.
Just overthrown, incomplete.
Goes to John Kevel, number 82.
Pass falls incomplete.
John Kevel was the intended receiver.
John was mostly a defensive end in high school. Matter of fact, he lettered 3 years on the varsity, but he didn't play much offense. But they're a little short of bodies, so they've got him going both ways. But he does have pretty good hands.
Let's just say that John looked just about as good as you could look for a receiver who
didn't catch the ball.
Who didn't catch the ball. That's exactly right. His form was great.
Well, he's about 6'2", and he's in pretty good shape from all the workouts, so he's trying.
Jack English in the backfield for the Spartans.
3rd and 11. Another passing situation. And Walsh looks to throw. Now rolling out. He's going to tuck it away and run. Left sideline slides to about the 39 or 40-yard line. He'll be short of the first down by about 5 yards. And make it 4th down coming up.
Rick Tarsitano still managed to make a little contact with Walsh before he hit the ground.
And it'll be 4th down with about 5 yards to go.
All right, what do you do here? Do you go for it? Do you throw caution to the wind?
Well, I don't want to. Walsh made a smart move sliding out of bounds because I'm not sure St. Francis really has a backup. Ricky Sandberg, who played a lot of quarterback and halfback in high school, pulled a hamstring in the warm-ups. So I'm not really sure there's much backup at that position. And Walsh was pretty good with the handoffs, the passes. He's been practicing all summer. He's in good shape.
Rick Hoffman back to receive.
Pat Virtue going to do some punting. The first punt for St. Francis. Low line drive. Off the hand.
The ball is down at the 44-yard line.
That was Billy Jensen, I think.
By Bill Jensen.
Ball is down where it's first touched, and IC's going to have it at their own 43.
Bill's about my age. I think I played against him in grade school and high school. He's a good friend of Jack O'Malley's. He got hurt in the game last year. He's a real speed merchant. He used to be the star of IC's track team. And 100 and 220. He's very fast in the open field.
Dennis, do the St. Francis players, to your knowledge, get in much football at all, touch football even, or any variety whatsoever?
I think they just get together for these reunion things, and that's it. Okay. No, it's kind of like the Blues Brothers or something. Oh.
Now Beck bowling his way through. Gets
Dan
41.
61.
To the left side, nice hole, picks up about 3 yards.
Ball was actually marked at the 37, so a 4-yard pickup brings it up to the 41 of Immaculate Conception.
That's actually one of the more effective running plays IC has put on today.
That and the Strasser 6-yard run on the last possession have been the biggest gainers. The only one over 1 yard. Strasser rolling out, nothing doing this time. No room to work the option.
John Kevel again, Dennis. He's been everywhere.
John takes his stuff very seriously. He was on everybody's case to show up for practice, and Ed Wysocki was also in on it.
Yeah, Wysocki had the low tackle.
I'm looking at one of Ed's ads for Midco in the program, so I have to give everybody a plug.
3rd down and 6. Yeah, but a long time since they were out on the gridiron together, but these teams looking pretty good. Well-played game thus far. 3rd and 6. We haven't had many penalties in a long time either. Strasser back to throw. Lots of time. Throwing. Good catch by Mullen. He's got a first down.
Strasser's pass is complete.
How many first downs is that for IC? It can't be more than 1 or 2.
That's the lone one, the first one.
That's what I thought. Nice catch by Tom Mullen.
Hey, Billy J!
Now at the 49-yard line of IC, 1st and 10.
And the ball is marked at the 49 of IC, an 8-yard pickup. That's Strasser's second completion of the game. He has thrown 4 passes. 13 yards total on the 2 completions. Mullen comes in motion. Lone setback now. Strasser going to throw again. All kinds of time. Jumps off the screen, complete to Beck. Inside the 50 to the 47.
Not a bad play, but Strasser, his drop back went so far back, the ball actually flew about over 10 yards, and they only picked up 4.
47-yard line.
And for the first time, though, the Knights are in St. Francis territory. Officials timeout here for a moment.
I think these guys are getting tired, but the cooler weather is helping them quite a bit.
How about you look at people like the Bears and the Cardinals who are going to be playing an exhibition game, or they will have already played this by the time you watch this game, but in 107-degree heat down at Sun Devil Stadium.
Handoff and spinning forward.
Ed Wysocki got him.
Steve Kevel with his first carry. They have natural grass in Phoenix, don't they, or Tempe?
Yeah.
That's fortunate. That would be even worse if they didn't. Ball goes to the 45, 2nd and 8.
Wysocki's played pretty well in this game, Dennis. He's made a nice stop, time or 2.
Ed's in good shape. He was a little mad. He didn't play enough in the last one.
3rd down
so
and 4 coming up.
He's taking this one more seriously. But he's a good athlete. He went to the NIU too, but he didn't play on the varsity team.
Strasser has nowhere to go.
That was Ed who
Wysocki
tripped him
again.
up too.
That's right. The man we were talking about, Ed Wysocki, coming up with the play, and that play was doomed from the start.
Ed is actually very quick. He has very quick feet. Plays basketball a lot, and he's one of the guys who's in really good shape. So he's playing a little both ways. He carried, he went in a couple plays at fullback, and he's playing linebacker too.
4th down and 4, 2:25 left in the first half. The only score has been a 1-yard run by Mike O'Neill on St. Francis's first possession. 5 minutes left in the first quarter. IC with a 4th down situation here, trying to convert, keep their best drive of the game going. Strasser's going deep. He's got a man. Overthrown, incomplete.
Intended for Mark Morgan, and Morgan had a step on Dan Hansen, but the ball was just overthrown just a little bit. Check that. Pat Virtue was back on the coverage. I'm sorry.
St. Francis takes over. Dodges the bullet there. And with 2:03 left in the first half, we'll see if quarterback Dan Walsh decides to stick to the ground attack here. Maybe run out the half a little bit.
It'll be 1st and 10 with 2 minutes, 3 seconds remaining.
So far, knock on wood, we've not only seen a great game, but no injuries.
That's right. So far, everybody looks to be okay. But I think it'll be more curious to watch it in the second half.
True.
When these people get fatigued.
1st and 10 from the 45-yard line, just outside the 45.
Dan Walsh at quarterback.
Walsh running some option. He'll keep it. Oh, slides forward through the sliver of room, and he gets across midfield to about the 49. We'll see where they do mark him down. Oh, right at midfield. It's where the knees hit, so 4-yard pickup.
They ran over Hudet's side again on the right, and I think that's their biggest strength, because he, as big as he is, he really comes off the ball quick. He was a pulling guard at for 4 years at NIU, and I think he can still get enough to give him the edge off right tackle or right guard.
Right at midfield, 2nd and a long 5.
Marty Nighhill out wide
Single
left.
split out on either side of Walsh. Hands to O'Neill, trying to get outside. Good running, gets to the 48-yard line. He had to run about 15 yards to pick up those 2.
Bob Ivanek doing everything he possibly can to try to hang on to the ankles of O'Neill. You know how you can tell that these guys are in shape, and I say this in all seriousness, if you didn't know that the guys on that field have been out of high school for over 20 years, you wouldn't know the difference.
St. Francis is going to call a timeout here with 49 seconds left now in the first half, 6-0.
Another guy on the right side of St. Francis offense is Rich Doria, whose dad is the sheriff of DuPage County. And he played, well, when we won the championship about 150 years ago, he was a sophomore playing on the varsity. And he was a pulling guard. He came back, I think he lives in the Phoenix area. He came back just for the game.
So there's kind of a political edge to this game, too.
And law enforcement.
That's right. And
Same time.
You're looking at me like you're afraid I'm going to go into my politics. I won't, because I don't think a lot of people would agree with me in this area.
Sunday, August 23rd at 3:30. Monday,
especially after we heard, you know, after Dennis was talking about Jack O'Malley running for re-election.
Friday, August 28th at 6:30.
Well, Jack was a very good athlete in high school. I mean, he still is. He was starting forward on the basketball team and a tight end on the football team. Mike Mariani was the coach back then, and his philosophy was not to pass that much, so we ran mostly. So Jack didn't catch many passes, but he was an excellent downfield blocker.
At the 48-yard line, 3rd down coming up for St. Francis.
3rd down and 4.
Just inside IC territory.
Walsh at quarterback.
Walsh going to throw. He goes to his release, man. Falls down at the 50-yard line, but a flag goes down from the backfield.
Late flag, too, and it's going to be a hold.
Tripped up immediately at the mid-strike field. Mid-strike.
Jack English went down right at midfield. It would be 4th and about 6, but we'll see if they accept the penalty.
They were saying that English was tripped up at the 50-yard line. He was actually tripped up by the 50-yard line.
Jack is playing with a heavy brace on his right knee. He had anterior cruciate ligament surgery after the other game. He had about a 20 or 30-yard run, and instead of going out of bounds on the sideline, he tried to come back in and blew his knee out. And he's been rehabilitating. He's one of these guys who likes to work out every other day anyway, so he's always in good shape. But if he didn't have that brace on, I think he would have turned the corner there. But he's still one of the guys in best shape.
We have a call that goes against the Spartans for holding. Walk off.
So it goes back to the St. Francis 39-yard line. Oh, you call it the 40-yard line even.
Third down and 15.
3rd and 15 coming up. We're going to have another timeout. This one IC.
Boy, they must really be tired, huh?
Hey, Billy J!
Well, John Padgett, the coach of IC, going out to the huddle. We're going to get a chance to talk a little strategy here. 38 seconds left.
Strategy, come on. He's
After
thirsty,
game plans,
he's
I think
tired.
Is probably the strategy, but... Third and 15. I'm going back trying to see where the last penalty was in this game. And the last penalty was that, well, I have an illegal procedure on IC with about a minute left in the first quarter. And prior to that was that delay of game that we enjoyed so much. So really, it's been a very penalty-free game.
Only at the very beginning, if you remember that first drive when IC had a hold and an offsides on the very first play of the game.
Well, the mentors are leaving the field. Bob O'Connor, the head coach of St. Francis. Both of the coaches, Padgett and O'Connor, coach the school's football teams in the fall, and they're getting a head start on the season here.
To go in the first half. The ball's at the 40-yard line. It's 3rd and 15.
So we are ready to go back to action here. 3rd and 15. You see in motion, Virtue. Walsh going to go the other way. Nihill cuts back. He's got nowhere to go, though, and he goes down at the 41-yard line.
I'll tell you what, Mark Morgan is playing this game like he's getting paid to play this game.
By Marty Nihill. Picked up 5 yards on the play.
He's playing like he wants to renegotiate his contract.
We'll have 4th down and 15 at the 40.
Marty Nihill's a very good athlete, but he's built for tennis, not football.
Yeah, you don't see many tennis players try to sidestep the ball, and that's what he tried to do there, and it didn't work.
Marty's brother Jack, his older brother Jack, is a dentist in Wheaton, and he's got an ad in here too. So
all right, we've covered just about, well, let's see.
We've covered virtually every profession.
There's got to be a few more. Yeah.
But Jack is over on the sidelines. He was our quarterback in high school. Remember, I played grade school ball with Jack. He was a very good quarterback, but he, being a dentist, he didn't want to risk getting his hand stepped on by a cleat or something.
Now, there's also an ad here from the car dealer I bought my car at, but we won't. How about that?
Right. We got to keep him happy. So
but he doesn't. I don't think he's playing in this game. The guy that owns that, and I don't think he knows anybody or is married to anybody or related in any way.
Myzinga Ford, I think, is a Mike Myzinga, but he's not playing.
4th down. They're going to go for it. As we are back from our brief advertising. Walsh throwing over the middle. Nihill got one hand on it but couldn't hold on, and it's incomplete. And I think he's glad he didn't hold on after he saw how he got hit.
Marty actually got knocked out of his shoes on that play. One of his shoes came off, but he made the good move by avoiding that hit because I think we might have had to take him out in a body bag if he didn't duck on that one.
You know what's kind of funny on that play is number 51, Pete Conroy, actually jarred the ball loose, and then he picked up the shoe and dropped it, cleats first, into his hands.
That was the flag I thought I saw. I think that was a shoe, not a flag.
Oh, there's a flag down right over there by the 36.
Oh, there is a flag. You are right.
The ball turns over to IC.
But that flag is declined, and IC is going to have the ball at the 41. Illegal procedure. IC's at the 41-yard line with 24 seconds left in the first half. 6-0 still the score. St. Francis leading.
We got a double spread here on this.
We're about on the same pace as the 1989 game, 12-6. St. Francis won that one. Strasser's back to throw. He wanted to throw deep, but now he runs out of time and he goes down.
Strasser is brought down in the backfield.
Initial
Paul
contact.
Hudetz again in on that.
Yeah, I was going to say the initial contact by Hudetz, and then Jim Kevel came in to finish things up. John wasn't far behind either, and that's going to do it.
So you had the Kevel brothers, John and Jim, in on that tackle.
Dennis Hogan also on the scene. They had 4 tacklers there waiting to get a shot at Strasser. And the half is over as that play brings the half to a close. Dave Owen along with Micah Golnick and Dennis Morris here back at Immaculate Conception High School for what I guess is opening day of the high school football season. I'll call it an old-timers game. Between Immaculate Conception and St. Francis.
And actually, Dave, we are not at Immaculate Conception High School. We're actually at Plunkett Field where they play their games. Also baseball fields out here, a lot of athletic facilities. And
yeah, we're about, I guess, 4 blocks, 5 blocks west of Immaculate Conception High School, the building itself, but this is the athletic complex.
And a nice one it is. They've done a pretty good job taking a look at the football field and the baseball fields over there. And a lovely job with the train tracks, too. I don't know if those are high school owned, but...
They've provided us with plenty of entertainment today, though. And for that, we thank them. As the Immaculate Conception players, right there, Dan Gibbons, number 52, they're getting ready for the second half. And really, after kind of a rough start, they played very well the last, say, 18 minutes of that first half.
Well, let's talk about that first half. It's over, for one. We look forward to the second half, but yeah, Immaculate Conception started off a little bit slowly. 2 penalties in their first few plays, and the timing wasn't down. They seemed to settle down a little bit. And I look for Don Strasser and his crew to make some good things happen in this second half. But I was also impressed with Dan Walsh, and I don't think he's done.
You mentioned that those penalties, that kind of put IC in a hole. St. Francis took over on their first possession at their own, or actually at IC's 37-yard line. And in 8 plays, they took it into the end zone for the lone score of the game. That on a 1-yard run by Mike O'Neill. That made it 6-0. The 2-point conversion failed. And from there, it's been pretty much a defensive struggle. Very well played, though, very few penalties.
And Dennis, are you looking forward to anything different in this second half, aside from probably more timeouts in the first half?
Well, I was over talking to the St. Francis players. A lot of them had their jerseys off and were putting on new T-shirts. They were sweating a lot, and a couple of them had leg pulls, hamstring pulls, groin pulls. So some of the guys are a little banged up. Nobody... I saw one guy with ice on his ankle, but they're all drinking a lot of water, and I think they're going to try and do a little more ball control on the right side behind Hudetz and Rich Doria and Denny Hogan. Those are 3 of the biggest guys on the team, and they were getting pretty good explosion off the line, but they weren't really running that much, so I think they're going to run a little more.
St. Francis will take over at their own 30-yard line. There will be no kickoff in the second half. We have one other score to report before we get back to the game.
Might that be?
The score of the total fans here representing each school. St. Francis 315, or that's Immaculate Conception 315. St. Francis 301. Here's Mike.
All right, I'll be taking over the play-by-play duties. Be your announcer, your captain, your friend for the
guiding us through the second half.
That's right. Give us to O'Neill right up the middle, and O'Neill doesn't get much, just across the 30 to the 31-yard line, and a very spirited Immaculate Conception defensive line coming in to make the stop. Steve Kevel, number 41, in on the stop, along with a few other people, and they look refreshed.
Quick play. Going with a quick formation on this second play.
And we talked early in the game, as we're going to have an officials timeout here for a moment. And equipment. I believe that's Steve Kevel. Well, now we're back to action.
That's right, trying to slow things down a little bit as St. Francis came up to the line in a hurry.
That's Virtue out wide.
And Pat Virtue tries to drive the left side, and I don't think he picked up anything, so it'll be 3rd down and about 9. Back to the 31-yard line. Good start for the IC defense.
And we talked in the first half about fatigue, but the team's coming out of the locker room in good shape here, particularly the IC defense, showing no ill effects of the heat or the length of this game.
In the first game 3 years ago, Steve Kevel scored IC's only touchdown on an intercepted pass. So they're pretty good on defense.
They're down a 9 passing situation for the St. Francis Spartans. Dan Walsh goes back, looking to the air.
Marty.
And it is incomplete, intended for Marty Nihill. Nihill had to turn around to catch the ball. There's a flag down, and we may have a late hit. Mike Urbick, number 63 of Immaculate Conception, came in and, let's see, face mask against IC, and it's going to go against Urbick. Got a little bit too much of Dan Walsh's face mask, and another costly penalty against IC.
That's going to probably be a 15-yarder and a first down. March it off from the 31.
St. Francis was pulling all the political clout they could. They had Sheriff Rich Doria down there at halftime, and Cook County State's Attorney Jack O'Malley came by to say hi to everybody. So they were trying to pump them up, but they're getting tired, and it's hotter now, and the wind has died down. So it's I know they're getting a little bit tired.
O'Malley struggling, getting ready to struggle in his re-election campaign against Pat O'Connor. First down on the face mask.
Get in some campaigning here today probably as well. Probably doesn't have to fight for these votes though.
That's right.
Familiar face to these players.
Split backfield behind Dan Walsh. Long count. And this give is to Jack English. And English is tripped up. Number 42, Mark Saunders, came in, made a nice stop. And that's going to be a loss of a yard. Back to the 47-yard line is where they'll mark it.
Boy, they're giving him a little forward progress, I guess.
That's right. They actually give him a yard. It'll be second down, and let's call it a long 8. About 2.5, 3 yards shy of the midfield stripe.
Second down and 8 for the Spartans of St. Francis.
10-12 left to play third quarter. 6-0 in favor of the Spartans of St. Francis. They've got the ball. But had it not been for a face mask penalty, it'd be Immaculate Conception that would have the ball in probably good field position. Walsh calls timeout. Didn't like something he saw.
Timeout, St. Francis.
So Bob O'Connor, the coach of St. Francis, is going to come out there.
Jimmy Leonard, who's a St. Francis center, had an appendectomy about 2 months ago. He said his doctor gave him the okay to play because he said he couldn't hurt him because he didn't have an appendix anymore. So he's out there, hasn't missed a play at center, but I'm sure he's not 100%, but he said he had the doctor's okay and he's here.
There you see some of the complex game plan set up by IC. Now, the one good thing about playing on a regulation field like this is at least they don't have to say, all right, go down to the car and turn left.
That's in the playbook, though.
Is it?
Just in case.
I'm looking forward to that. Well, you know, they've got an ambulance here, but they're keeping it just far enough away from the field where, you know, it's not a focal point for these guys.
That's intimidating.
That's right. Second down and 8. Ball at the 47-yard line. Again, the split backfield behind Dan Walsh. And the give is to English. And English is hit hard right at the line of scrimmage, and he is not going to gain a thing.
That was Steve Kevel, I think, once again.
Steve Kevel, just about at the line of scrimmage.
Kevel's been probably the defensive standout of IC.
Steve is fairly short, but he's in good shape, and he's very hard to block. He's hand fighting the blockers and getting in on almost every tackle.
There you saw Steve Kevel, or rather Bill Beck, up close on the sideline. Intense expression across his face. Third down and 8 from the 47-yard line.
Like Coach O'Connor sending in a play with some signals from the St. Francis sideline, and they got to be running down short on that play clock once again. They really took a long time getting that play in.
Let's see if it pays off. All that preparation.
Too much time.
There you go. You called it, Dave.
Delay of the game penalty against the Spartans. 5-yard walk-off.
Well, they just had to call a timeout a few moments ago because of a similar problem, a similar mix-up over a call after Walsh had brought the team up to the line, and now they're backed up 5 yards, 3rd and 13.
And looks like they're going to have to go to the air.
Walsh is 4 of 12 on the day so far, 35 yards passing.
Going in motion to the far side is Nihill. And it's tipped up in the air and incomplete off the fingertips of John Urich. Pass should have been caught.
It'll be 4th down.
But in the end, they were lucky the ball wasn't intercepted because it was knocked up in the air and could have been picked off by a number of people.
Even if it were caught, he would have been well short of the 1st down. They needed 13, and that was probably about a 5-yard pass play.
Are you criticizing the play calling?
Just pointing out a fact. That was not critical at all.
Boy, Dennis, do you believe this guy? I mean, now he's starting to be critical of the coaching.
Hey, don't take the broom to the hornet's nest here. Don't stir up any trouble.
I like that. I like that. Pat Virtue back, getting ready to punt this one away.
Virtue, the punter.
Good punt. And it's kind of knocked down at about the 34-yard line by Rick Hoffman. And so that is where Immaculate Conception will take over at the 34-yard line inside their own territory. And that's more or less where they've been this entire game, is inside their own territory, but we'll have to see if they came up with anything different during the half. Don Strasser at the controls for IC.
IC has had 1 first down in this game. 10 total yards offensively, 17 by the pass, and they have a -7 yards rushing total in this game.
The give is to Mullen, and a big hole up the middle, and Mullen across the 45 out to the 46-yard line.
He's landed on the ball. He's hurt.
And that's right, Mullen slow to get up.
The wind knocked out of him. Might have landed on the ball.
John Padgett running out there.
That's
John
kind of
coaching
thing you don't
his
want
first
to see
game at
is
IC.
the injury, so hopefully this is just a...
I would think that'd probably be what it was, the way he landed on the ball.
That's what happened in the previous game with Billy Jensen, who was probably the fastest guy in the field. About the first time he carried, he got hit very hard and landed with the nose of the ball in his ribs and ended up at Central DuPage Hospital. But he's back down here again, although they haven't played him much.
Mullen trotting off the field. He looks to be okay after a nice pickup of 12 yards. As I mentioned, across the 45, the ball sits at the 46-yard line. Still inside IC territory, but they might be ready to get things going offensively.
That was a great hole by the left side of that IC offensive line. Their biggest running play of the game. Strasser had gained 6 on an earlier play, but Mullen doubled that.
And the give is to Hoffman, who came in to replace Tom Mullen, and Hoffman picked up about a yard.
Little disagreement on the other side of the field.
Udez stops him.
I'm not surprised. I mean, again, we talk about how friendly these teams are, but once they get on the playing field, the rivalry heats up a little bit.
Well, Jack English is a feisty guy, and he was given a little extra to number 82, so hopefully they'll get that out of their system, and then we won't have any penalties. It's pretty hard to get hurt with a helmet on with it. And shoulder pads, but...
2nd down and 9. The clock continues to run. 7:20 to go in the 3rd quarter. Score remains 6-0 in favor of St. Francis. Strasser with the pitch. That ball's going to hit the turf. It's going to be recovered.
Dan Buddy, maybe?
Well, it's not recovered yet. It looks like Jim Kevel might end up on the football, or it could also be Tom Mannion.
Number 60.
Tom Mannion from IC managed to pick up the football, and boy, oh boy, it looked like St. Francis could have picked up that ball a number of times. Nevertheless, a tremendous loss for Immaculate Conception, and when it looked like they had something going.
It'll be 3rd down and 19.
And it's going to make it 3rd down and 19, ball way back at the 40 or 36-yard line. And you may see Don Strasser try to go to the air. Split backfield and back of him. Strasser drops back, looking to pass. He does. And it's complete to Ray Quinlan. Quinlan driven out of bounds across midfield to the 48-yard line, but that's going to be about 4 yards shy of the first down. However, it sets them up for a decision whether or not they want to go for it. Instead of 4th and long, they've only got about 4th and 4.
And now you've got a 4th and 4
IC's got the wind this quarter, and I think it was a factor in the first half, and I wouldn't be surprised if they might go for it, maybe on a rollout, because there's only 5.5 minutes maybe left in this quarter, and then they'll be going against the wind. So it looks like they're going to go for it.
IC's going to go for it. 4th down and 4 inside St. Francis territory at the 48-yard line. Strasser, the ball, and that was Mullen, I believe.
That's where they mark it, huh?
It's going to be very close. If I had to go out on a limb, I would say that it's going to be short.
See if we can saw you off or not. Saw off your limb.
No, I think it's definitely short.
Yeah, they're going to be short.
They're going to measure, but from where we're standing, you can see that it's almost as much as a yard shy of the first down marker.
Looked like a real good spot too, Mike. Looked like Mullen's knees went down right at the 45-yard line. Then maybe rolled forward after he made contact with the ground.
Mullen is still feeling some effects
He was hit
from those
pretty
last
hard on
2
that
plays.
shot.
Yeah, he's a little shaky over on the near sideline and is indeed short of the first down. And so the St. Francis Spartans will take over 1st down and 10 from the 45.
Now that fumble really doomed that possession because they really moved the ball better than they have all day. Immaculate Conception starting at the 34.
You can tell some of these 40-year-old guys are getting a little tired. Not everybody's not popping up quite as quickly from when they get off the ground, but they're still trying to grind it out. So far, I don't know if there's been any serious injuries.
Jim O'Toole back at defensive back on the left side.
All right, Dan Walsh waiting for the snap. 1st down and 10 from the 45-yard line. And the give is to Virtue, and Virtue is stacked up right at the line of scrimmage. May have lunged forward for a yard to the 46-yard line. That's where it'll be marked. In on the stop, Gary Seneke, number 61 for the Knights of Immaculate Conception. 2nd down and 9.
Pick up of about a yard, it'll be 2nd and 9.
I think in the first game, Virtue probably played every play, so even in as good a shape as he's probably getting a little bit tired. Because the first couple times he ran the ball, he was ripping off 5- and 10-yard gains. Now he's getting smacked right at the line.
Yeah.
He's lined up at fullback now.
Virtue and English in the backfield behind Dan Walsh. Walsh rolling out, has some room across the 50 down to the 49-yard line, and David looked like he might have had 1st down yardage had he not stumbled just a wee bit just shy of midfield.
And that was a well-executed option as he had the back right with him. You're right, he was able to split the defenders, but I don't know if he'd been able to make it that far. The IC players had the good angle on the tackle, and he might have been able to pick up 2 or 3 more yards, but as it is, they're about 4 yards short, so 3rd down and 4 coming up.
Walsh is a good athlete, but it's pretty important that he take a slide rather than take a big hit, because at the skill position, he doesn't really have much of a backup, so he's got to...
Well, you might end up going down there. How about that? You want to play a little quarterback?
I was a fullback and a halfback, but not a quarterback.
Oh, who cares? It's been a while. Come on.
It's been a while. My knees know it, so...
Obviously, there's a timeout because those kids look just a little bit too young to be playing in this game.
Some of these guys even have kids attending high schools. So,
oh, my.
Like Johnny Kevels, his oldest son attends St. Francis. Pat Virtue, I know, has, I believe, at least one daughter attending St. Francis. So it's amazing how old these other guys are getting.
Well, when play continues, it'll be 3rd down and 4, 3:57 left to play here in the 3rd quarter. The score remains as it's been since the early goings. 6-0.
Of course, you mentioned St. Francis. They have quite a girls' basketball team. A great program over there.
Walsh waiting for the snap. Long count again. Walsh rolls out to his left, and it's complete to Virtue, and Virtue across the 40, dragged down inside the 35 to the 34-yard line. Up with the tackle was Mark Morgan, but a good play from St. Francis. Now that time they showed a little bit of a different look. They had Marty Nyhill in the backfield along with Virtue.
I think they're trying to give everybody a blow on in the backfield, and but Burt showed his quickness there. He's still in great shape, even he's played it both ways almost every play, and in the broken field, he can really get going.
Ball mark just shy of the 35-yard line. First down and 10 for the Spartans. This is Virtue again. Virtue turns the left side, has yardage. There's a flag down. Virtue ends up inside the 30 to about the 28-yard line. And that flag was thrown usually in the holding area, and let's see if that's what the call is.
Below the knees.
Preliminary call on the flag is blocking below the knees.
So a penalty erases what otherwise would have been a pretty nice pickup for Pat Virtue.
That's going to back up St. Francis, I believe, 15 yards.
Out of the game right now.
Danger of this threat.
And they march it off.
That was right at the line of scrimmage. I think it was Mike Urbick, number 63, who was victimized by the block. After Virtue was running past.
49-yard line of St. Francis. It'll be first down.
They had Jack McCarthy, I think the head referee, come out to one of the practices to explain the rules on double team blocks and blocking below the knees. So that's probably part of the reason there haven't been that many penalties. So
that's right.
They seem pretty familiar with it. They don't want anybody to get hurt on a double team block with below the knees.
Ball sits back into St. Francis territory at the 49-yard line. First down and 25. Again, they continue with the split backfield behind Dan Walsh. Walsh drops straight back, looking. He's got Virtue, but it's incomplete, just out of his reach at the 40-yard line. Again, the coverage goes to Mark Morgan, number 44.
Virtue's kind of digging the grass out of his face mask on that one. He goes all out for things, and that pass was just an example of it. He dove for it.
Second down and 25-yard line, or 25 yards to go at the 49-yard line. Again, your score 6-0. Along with Dave Owen and Dennis Morse, I'm Michael Gulnick.
English in the backfield now, offensive.
Here at Plunkett Field in Elmhurst, home of Immaculate Conception. And again, Walsh drops back, looking to throw. Hides behind Nyhill. And he is met at the 47-yard line by Steve Kevel.
Brought down by Steve Kevel.
And Dave Kevel came up and gave him a pop.
So we've got
looked like Walsh almost wanted to throw the ball. He was kind of looking to see whether he was over the line of scrimmage yet. And while he kind of made up his mind and was heading upfield, Mr. Kevel came up to greet him.
Well, it was funny because Walsh was literally hiding behind Marty Nyhill for about 2 yards, and then he decided, all right, I'll get brave. He showed his face, and he paid for it.
It really did look like he wanted to improvise a little bit more there. And ran out of time.
Let's take a look at the play.
Here we go,
and you can see what I'm talking about right there. Walsh hiding behind Nyhill, and then he gets popped by Steve Kevel. Now back to live action at the 46-yard line. Third down and 25. Walsh up in the air. That's up for grabs, intercepted by Mark Morgan. Morgan still on his feet. Goes back to the 45-yard line, lunges forward back to the 40. Mark Morgan making the most of his airtime and finally is brought down at the 40-yard line, and he's slow getting up.
The pass was intercepted by Mark Morgan, and he just gave us a lesson on open field running. Mark, nice
He's
job.
up, though.
He eventually was brought down.
He ran about 3 miles there. Maybe a little winded.
Ball, 1st and 10. He doesn't know where he is.
Oh, he wanted 6 points there, no doubt about it. He got to the 40, saw maybe even the 35, saw a little traffic, and thought he'd double back and see if he could outrun the people to the sidelines. But you can't do that when you're the class of 71 and it's 1992. Not quite the same anymore.
Morgan beat red at this point. The ball sits at the 40-yard line. 1st and 10, best field position of the day for Immaculate Conception. And this is Mullen, and Mullen scoots across the 40, only to about the 39-yard line, a pickup of probably 2 yards. Call it 2nd down and 8.
This is probably before your time, Mike, and you're a Nebraska fan anyway, so maybe you don't even care, but Kevin Strasser, the brother of Don Strasser, played football at Northwestern, quarterback there in the mid to late 70s.
Let's take a look at the replay of that interception very quickly. And you can see the ball up for grabs. Morgan steps up, makes the catch, but it was the excitement after the catch as he pretty much goes every which way. Going back live, and you see Mullen again off the right side. Mullen shy of the 35-yard line. They'll mark the ball at the 36, and that will make
Mullen's a little bit hurt.
Yeah, he is favoring an ankle, it looks like.
I think he's been their leading ground gainer by far. He's taken a lot of shots when he...
Going in as his replacement again is Hoffman. Rick Hoffman wearing number 32, joining Bill Beck in the backfield. 3rd down and 6. 24 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. Strasser back to throw, almost intercepted by Dan Hansen, and had Hansen come up with the ball, he would have been gone.
Almost picked off by Dan Hansen.
And he knew it. He knew it. If he just could have got 2 gloves on that one and pulled it in, there was nobody between him and the goal line.
When I played with Danny, he was a sophomore when we won the Suburban Catholic Conference in 1968. Except my number was 33, so if he drops any more balls, I'm going to have to take his jersey away from him. But he's really a good athlete. He's in great shape.
We'd like to announce
4th down and 6 coming up after the timeout.
Yeah, another one of these timeouts as the little kids come out with those very colorful water bottles.
171.
Hey, it won't.
There you go.
I think it's safe to say that on no football field in America will you find a wider difference in age than you're finding right here between the players and the water boys and water girls.
171.
And you can see in back of the St. Francis players, a nice crowd in back of them.
Not only are the bleachers full, but the end zones, the sidelines, standing, people everywhere.
There's even little children playing on the swings that have no idea what's going on in this game, but they're here.
They're waiting for Daddy to finish with his fun, finish with his play.
And assuming Daddy can still walk when he leaves this field, he'll carry them off on his shoulders. Meanwhile, 19 seconds remains in this 3rd quarter. 4th down and 6 at the 36. Coming in motion to the near side is Hoffman. Strasser under pressure, still looking, gets away from 3 Spartans, still on his feet.
Oh my goodness.
He's got a chance. Angled out of bounds at the 31-yard line, and that's going to be very close to a 1st down.
Regardless of whether he made it or not, that's the play of the game.
He may not have had enough for the 1st down.
He was in dire danger at about midfield, and
John Umich brought him down.
Even if he did not make the 1st down, it looks like they're going to mark him a little short, but there will be a measurement. But he saved his team 18 yards in field position at the very least.
Will have the run of their life.
Let's take a look at it. As you can see, Strasser making some nice moves just shy of the 1st down. before he was brought out of bounds by Hansen and Urich.
That's Mike Meising.
They're going to have to bring the chains all the way across the field now
But he's got a real estate?
for the measurement.
And you've got as good a view as anybody right now as you take a look at this measurement.
He's short half a yard, if that.
Boy, you know, they should give it to him just for the effort.
That's the best 5-yard run you'll ever see.
St. Francis Spartans.
Yeah, it really was.
Now, especially now that Walter Payton has hung up the cleats.
Yeah. Did he?
Yeah, I hate to break it to you.
Oh, man.
So did Bob Avellini.
Well, some legends just go on forever, and others are forced to
Number 31 from St.
retire.
I spotted his fan club.
Those were the good old days of Bears football.
T-shirts on.
Ball's going to be at about the
Connected in
32.
One way or the other. Tom Martin.
You know, I think one of the biggest factors here is the quarter changing, because the wind has been a big factor. So it'll be in St. Francis's favor when they switch sides here in a few seconds.
That's right.
Because when you're tired, that breeze behind you can be a big factor.
Remaining in the third quarter.
St. Francis had their best success in that first quarter
St. Francis up
with
over
that
the ball.
wind.
Barring a penalty, this shall be the last play of the third quarter. 7 seconds remaining.
Jim Kettle out wide for St. Francis.
And Dan Walsh awaiting the snap. Quick drop, looks to the air. He's got Nihil. Nihil across the 40, all the way out to the 45-yard line. So St. Francis ends the third quarter with a first down pickup of about 13 yards.
Brought down by Morgan.
Mark Morgan in on the stop. That's going to do it for the third quarter. We have completed 3 from Plunkett Field. Your score: St. Francis 6, Immaculate Conception nothing. We shall return.
Brief moment here while we change sides. Hoffman, Carcetano, and Ivanek in the defensive lineup for IC.
With Dave Owen and Dennis Morris, I'm Michael Golnick as we await the beginning of the fourth quarter of play here at Plunkett Field, where the Immaculate Conception Knights of 1971, we should mention, trail the St. Francis Spartans of 1969, 6-0. Dan Walsh, who has been quarterbacking the Spartans this whole way, drops back. Well, incomplete, intended for Mike Fitzgerald, in and out of his hands at the 50-yard line. In on the coverage was Mark Saunders, along with Steve Kevel.
Saunders in on the breakup.
Dennis, you mentioned a little bit earlier, apparently the class of 69, the class of 71, they've expanded it a little bit to fill out the rosters.
Right, I don't know what exactly the rules were, but there weren't enough bodies, so they opened it up to younger guys, I guess, to join in. I don't think it would have to have been an 8-man football game or something. There just wasn't enough manpower.
Second down and 10 from the 44-yard line. Walsh again looking to pass. Incomplete, intended for Virtue. The pass was behind him, and nevertheless, good coverage again by Mark Morgan. So had Virtue caught the ball, he probably would have been dropped immediately.
And Virtue has shown great hands on a few occasions, Mike. Passes that were behind him, and I remember in the first quarter on a two-point conversion attempt, a pass was a little behind him, and he got a hand on it. No matter where the ball is, he seems to be able to at least keep it alive.
And he had to wait for the ball, and you know that patience is well, no, that's too predictable. Just, you know,
Virtue.
Yeah, forget it. 2nd and 10.
I got it. I got
3rd
it.
and 10, actually. Walsh drops back, looking to pass.
Oh.
The ball is tipped incomplete. It was intended for John Urich.
Walsh's pass.
And the pass was
Flag.
there, but
Flag.
Steve Kevel got a hand on it and deflected it away. Flag is down, though.
Flag at the line of scrimmage.
You know, right now, Steve Kevel, I don't know if they're flip-flopping him or what, but he's involved in almost every play on defense.
That's right.
That was 3rd and 10. We'll see if they accept the penalty or make it 4th and 10.
Could be holding. Declined.
Penalty declined.
Holding.
4th
St.
and
Francis
10.
getting a little bit too affectionate, and holding is the result.
Might
They
look-
will punt it away.
It was an interesting decision by Coach Pageant. He could have backed him up to the 29-yard line.
They should kick
Get a
because
little better field position.
Virtue can really boot it. I mean, if he gets it up in the air, they'll be down about the 20, I'll bet, if he can get one off.
And of course, no returns. So however long he can kick this thing, that's where IC is going to take over.
Virtue.
Uh-oh,
High
back-
snap, manages to get it.
Okay.
Gets off a pretty good kick.
At
And
the
it's
30.
fielded at the 28-yard line by number 32, Rick Hoffman.
So I take it, Dennis, there won't be any blocked punts or anything either today.
Well, they were, I guess it's live up to the kicker. It's just once it's in the air.
Okay.
Because they were all going after him. And I think if they'd have downed him back there.
The beer tent is now open. The beer wagon is serving. So
First down and 10 from the 29-yard line inside Immaculate Conception territory.
They've got to go against the wind here, which is picking up a little bit.
We got those first 4 plays of the 4th quarter off in 19 seconds.
IC coming to the line of scrimmage, trailing 6-0.
Gibbons up over the ball. Strasser quarterback.
Don Strasser. And the give is to Mullen.
Mullen again.
And Mullen across the 30 to the 31-yard line. That's give him 2. Call it 2nd down and 8.
Dan Buddy's been playing middle linebacker for St. Francis the whole game. He's in good shape, and he's just kind of laying back about 5 yards and trying to sort out the blockers and then get the ball. He's doing a pretty good job.
And being worked on the sideline is Paul Huditz. Looks like he
ankle
might have hurt his ankle.
Calf. It might be his calf or his...
Talking before the game, Dennis, Paul's a former college player, is that right?
Paul played 4 years on a varsity at Northern Illinois University. His older brother, Leo, played there too.
Strasser's pass
Mullen.
complete to Mullen. Mullen across the 45. He'll pick up a first down.
Strasser to Mullen is complete. Mullen
Only the 3rd first down of the game, I believe, for IC.
Ball is spotted at the 41-yard line. 1st and 10 IC.
They're really moving the ball very well these last 2 possessions. You recall they just missed making the first down by about a foot.
That's right.
The last time.
And now you can see IC going to the air a little bit more, forgoing the ground game. And their most effective weapon so far has been Tom Mullen. And again, Strasser drops back, and the southpaw is going to run it. And he is going to be
Hit by
met
Jack English.
across the 45 to the 47-yard line by Jack English. Not a bad pickup. And there is, in fact, a flag down.
Back in the backfield, that's usually holding territory from the location. Or some blocking infraction. It will be illegal use.
Illegal use of hands, that's right. And it just seems like every time IC has a chance to string some first downs together, and they shoot themselves in the foot, so to speak.
Strasser over talking to Coach Pageant. There we get a look at the 2 of them. Pageant replacing the legendary Jack Lewis, who was at Immaculate Conception as coach and athletic director for a good number of years. I think back into the 1950s even. I think about a 35-year career. And
Rick Sandberg's in on defense for St. Francis. He hasn't played much. He pulled his hamstring in the warm-ups. He was actually one of the best halfbacks that ever played at St. Francis. He's a
It'll be first down.
A little out of shape right now,
24
but
yards. Or IC.
First down and 24 at the 27-yard line as we head towards the 10-minute mark left in this ball game. Strasser again with the split backfield, Mullen in back.
ooh.
And the misdirection, it goes nowhere. In fact, probably a loss of yardage.
No gain, line of scrimmage.
It seems like the any of the technically involved plays like traps or misdirections are not working at all. It seems only the quick openers or rollouts
That's right.
are getting any yardage.
I think IC might be better served right now to go to the rollouts. It seems like that kind of spreads out the defense a little bit and allows them to make some good things to happen, but instead it's second down and 24.
They've had no luck at all inside. The only plays that have really been effective in gaining yardage running-wise have been outside, except for the one play by Mullen that picked up 12 yards. It's been pretty much slam the door whenever they run between the tackles.
Strasser takes the snap, drops back, looking, under pressure, unloads from Mullen, incomplete, overthrew him out of bounds.
Is overthrown intended for Mullen.
It'll be a long yardage situation, third down and 24. And it seems that almost every time he drops straight back, that St. Francis defensive line is able to get penetration and force him to throw the ball a little earlier than he'd like to. He really doesn't get as good a look at the field as he would like to as well.
He has been rolling out to gain a little extra time, but really nothing developing very quickly downfield for him. And
I think you might see him roll out either a partial or full rollout on this play.
And then the option to run or pass, perhaps.
Well, it just drops straight back. That's up for grabs, but it's complete to Ray Quinlan, and Quinlan driven out of bounds across midfield to the 47-yard line. A first down.
47-yard line.
That ball was perfectly thrown.
Perfectly thrown, exactly right, Dennis. Boy,
Danny Hansen's a good defensive player, but he's not real tall, and he had no choice really. He had him covered. He had to interfere with him to stop the catch.
that is really, truly the one place where Ray Quinlan could have caught that ball, and Strasser dropped it in there.
Well, Quinlan just might be the tallest player on either team, and they utilized his height pretty well. First down and 10 at the 47 inside St. Francis territory. The give is to Mullen. Mullen spins away down to the 45-yard line, a pickup of a pair.
Dan Buddy got him.
Ball brought down to the 45.
So Buddy in on the stop, and again, Mullen a little bit slow in getting up. Yeah, that's got to be a concern to IC, is the fact that every time Mullen touches the ball, he's getting banged up.
Get his rest of his legs to heal.
Rick Sandberg got out of the game for the Spartans.
Yeah, that's right. As one of the gentlemen up here in the booth said, he's got the rest of his life to heal, so, and I won't, anyway. Needless to say, they have no sympathy for him up here in the booth. As long as he can walk, he can play. Second down and 8. Play action. Strasser jumps over somebody and taken down at the 40-yard line, and that's going to be about 3 yards shy of a first down. We'll call it third down and 3.
Third down and about 3. 3rd and 3 at the Spartans' 40-yard line.
Tell you what, Strasser's not bad on his feet. Able to hurdle somebody.
They've got Paul Hudetz back in the game for St. Francis at about left tackle, I'd say. If he's healthy, if he can, it'll help him try and hold on here.
Ball sits at the 40. It's Mullen around the right side, tripped up.
Hudetz got a hand on him right there at the 40. And
shy of the first down, you're exactly right, Dennis. Hudetz, who was actually taken down, able to stick his hand out and trip him up.
About a yard.
That's Mullen's down again.
Or 2, we have an official's timeout.
I used to call Paul Hudetz Small Paul because he wasn't, but he didn't play in the previous game, but they're very glad he showed up for this one because he's about the best lineman. You know, they had a shortage of linemen this year. Everybody's tired.
A lot of people kneeling now, and
Time for a drink of water.
No pride right now. They're swallowing their pride. They want to swallow water.
Very impressive. Water.
He's just out of gas temporarily. He wasn't hurt, but it's getting hotter.
Yeah, it is.
The clouds are pretty well gone. Another water break.
Going to be a big 4th and 1 coming up here. 6:50 left in the game.
4th down and a yard to go from the 37-yard line. Biggest play of this ball game. I would say this is the biggest play of the season so far.
4th down and 1.
And if you're thinking of going to the refrigerator,
No,
stay here.
absolutely.
This is the play.
This is it.
If they get a first down here, St. Francis is in trouble.
They won't.
Strasser's
Oh no, Strasser keeps it, and he still will not get the first down. Boy, oh boy, good reaction in on the stop. John Kevel, along with Dan Hansen, also in on the stop.
Well, from reading about the 1989 game, that game was decided by a matter of inches or feet, a late drive by IC coming up short. And this game, on 2 occasions, just coming up short on 4th down conversions.
Well, this is where fatigue comes into play, Dave, because if St. Francis can keep the ball on the ground and maybe put some first downs together, all of a sudden you're going to see the clock getting down into dangerous territory.
Down to 6 minutes right now and running.
Walsh.
That's Big Mike O'Neill.
That's right, O'Neill, and he is stacked up and brought down in on the stop Lance Mercado.
Mike was almost 200 pounds when he was in high school, and he's closer to 250 now, so they gave him a rest for a while, but he's back in there. They're going to try and control the ball.
Gus Kimball in the ball game for the Spartans.
And I would think his presence will wear down the IC defense a little bit.
They're
Having to
giving him a
bring him
break.
down.
He's going out after that play. I think he's got some knee problems too, so they're going to use him, ration him. They've got Jack English at right half now and Virtue at fullback.
2nd down, 7.
Uh-oh.
And a little miscommunication, the ball loose. And let's see,
player
Walsh
came up with it, but I think they whistled it dead.
Ball was a
That's
dead
right.
ball.
Walsh got hit.
Recovery.
Kind of struggling to his feet. Oh my.
Little extracurriculars.
Out of
That's right.
midfield.
Now tempers are starting to flare. John Urich and Rich Doria. You would think that Doria is one person that may not want to get into any legal trouble at this game.
Well, Rich came a long way to play for the game, and something must have got him upset. Looks like he's been tossed. I don't know if anybody from IC.
He might have had a bad flight on the way here, and maybe his luggage was lost.
Offsetting personal fouls.
Doing personal fouls.
2 personal fouls offsetting, 1 against IC, 1 against St. Francis.
Both players ejected.
And both players were ejected from the game.
3rd down. Deal now.
Well, 5 minutes left to play in this football game, and temperatures are rising like the temperature.
Going to be 3rd and 13.
Down to about
37.
12. Spartans have the ball.
3rd down and 12 from the 37-yard line inside St. Francis territory. Probably a passing down coming up for Dan Walsh. This is a key play for Immaculate Conception. Walsh drops back, pumps once, puts it up in the air, and that is complete for Virtue, and Virtue's got a first down inside Immaculate Conception territory.
And good for a first down.
All the way down to the 47-yard line. And that might have been the biggest play of the game, aside from the touchdown and that 4th down call that we saw a few moments ago, because that will continue to run the clock now. And
47-yard line. where it will be Spartans.
Pat's pretty much a triple threat. He's a hard hitter on defense, a good runner, good receiver, and he's also the punter. So he's done everything except throw the option play.
Big first down at the 47-yard line. Walsh. And the give is to Virtue.
No gain on that play.
Down he goes right off the bat.
Mercado in on the tackle, assisted
Maybe
by
a pickup
Slover.
of about a yard. Mercado in on the stop. Mark Saunders also there.
Pat Virtue's jersey is soaked straight through. He's been on almost every play, but they'll probably stay in for every play. But if they can get another first down, maybe they're going to try and run the clock down, obviously.
Second down, 9.
Walsh up over the ball.
Not everybody is paying all that much attention, as that little girl was kind of enjoying herself. This is Virtue again around the right side. Virtue has some room.
Down.
He's got another first down all the way to the 35-yard line. They'll mark it at the 37, but more importantly, as Dennis just mentioned, that is going to allow them to run the clock probably down close to the 2-minute mark.
36-yard line.
There's 3:49 remaining now.
10 again for the Spartans of St. Francis.
Now IC is probably in timeout territory after each play.
They're on the 36.
All right. First down and 10 at the 36. Walsh, and the give again is to Virtue, and Virtue cuts it back inside, spun around, and brought down at the 30-yard line, a pickup of 6, and it's going to be second down and 4. And Dennis, this is what I alluded to a few moments ago, and that is that you get down to this point in the game, and you keep the ball on the ground, you're going to get some first downs because the defense for IC is just dog-tired.
Well, everybody's tired. They're going off the right side mostly, where Hudetz is, and Virtue is kind of tireless. He won't quit till it's over, and they may run him forever.
Second down 4 from the 30.
That's the Jack English, a quick hitter.
That's right, in English, across the 30 down to the 29-yard line, to pick up a couple. It'll be third down and a long 2, we'll call it.
You know, as St. Francis came out early to do some calisthenics and work out a bit, and I told Jack to take it easy. I said we needed them in the fourth quarter as much as the first, because I was afraid they were going to lose all their energy like the first game early in the half. But now if they could just hold on to it, because both Virtue and English are very good runners. They seldom fumble. Again,
Walsh taking his time, and the give is to Virtue, and Virtue is going to be very close to a first down.
A number of the IC defensive linemen.
We'll have to see just how much he picked up with his forward progress. And one thing about Virtue is he's very quick, but he also hits the line of scrimmage with a good head of steam.
He was probably the hardest hitting tackler
Ball is spotted at the 26-yard
on the team.
line.
He would hit guys in the open field. He wasn't that big when he was in high school, but now he's for being 40 or 41 years old, he's in pretty great shape.
Is there going to be a third game? Another rematch coming up in the future?
If it is, I think it should be volleyball or shuffleboard. I'd be willing to play then.
I'll tell you what, Dennis, I bet you these guys are going to walk out of here all banged up, and they're going to wake up tomorrow and find it hard to get out of bed, and then by next weekend they're going to want to get it all on again and do it all over.
I'm not sure about that.
Let's say 2 weeks from now. How about that?
The winning numbers again, if you didn't hear them the first time, for $215.
I have a feeling some of these Immaculate Conception players, they're going to be about 55, 60 years old, and they're going to want to come back out and play because they want to get that one win. You've got to get that one win in this series.
The only thing that would hurt them is if they had an interception or something. If St. Francis gets too tricky.
I don't know, though, that I want to see that game.
No.
If they're about 60 and they're back out here. I think the ambulance will just be moved a little bit closer to the field if that is the case.
Yeah, basically this play is live or die for IC. If they don't make the stop here, it's definitely in the books for St. Francis.
Down at about a yard, St. Francis.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good description.
Brilliant deduction.
Yeah.
They've got Mike O'Neill back at fullback, so they may try and just give it to him.
Let's see if big number 40 is in fact the ball carrier. Dan Walsh. He's going to do it himself.
Walsh on a keeper.
And it looks like he's got it. It's going to be very, very close.
There wasn't much of a hole there.
And again, some people getting a little huffy.
I'm sure Dan was trying to crawl as far as he could under that pile.
I don't think John Padgett and IC is very happy with the spot. But
I don't know. It's very hard to read what's going on at this point.
Boy, that's going to be real close. I don't think they gave him much yardage at all. I see a lot of folks jumping around on the IC sideline, but the spot really didn't look too bad. That was the...
Yeah, but I don't know if they're jumping around because they're upset about the spot or if they're excited because they think they stopped him. We'll find out.
There's only a minute and 46
I think they stopped
seconds
him.
left.
They stopped him.
IC's defense did it.
You know, he didn't have much chance to extend himself with the ball, so he had he was holding about his waist, and he was down right away, so he never really got much of momentum going.
1 minute and 46 seconds left in the game.
1:46 left, 6-0 your score, and it's just making me chuckle at all of a sudden these people out on the field have forgotten it.
See, Tom Mullen, Bob Ovanek, Phil Jensen, Don Strasser, Rick Tarsitano, Jim O'Toole, Rick Hoffman, Bill Beck, Steve Kevel, Mark Saunders, Mark Borgen, Pete Conroy, Dan Gibbons, Tom Mannion, Gary Seneke, Mark Cullerton, Mike Urbick, Joe Marzano, Lance Mercado, Kim Mercado, Tim Cook, Ray Quinlan, Ted Cook, and Rick Rentner. As we look at the IC cheerleaders, we'll run down the St. Francis roster here in today's game. Dan Walsh, the quarterback, Marty Nyhill, Rick Sandberg, Tom Nyhill, Terry Benshoof, Pat Virtue, Jack English, Tom Martin, John Urich, Dan Hansen, Mike O'Neill, Ed Wysocki, Mike Fitzgerald, Jim Kevel, Jim Leonard, Dan Booty, Rich Doria, Bubba Impala, Bob Krzyzewski, Paul Hudetz, Dennis Hogan, John Kevel, Rick Kern, and Gus Kimball.
Well done.
If I could mention, on the back of the program, there's a couple of fellows that went to St. Francis who are deceased now, who were on the team back in 1968. Terry Yarborough, who was from Elmhurst, and Greg Garvin, who led the league in scoring when he was a junior and got a full scholarship to Duke.
Strasser, that is complete to Tarsitano, it looks like.
Strasser to Tarsitano is complete.
About 4 or 5 St. Francis Spartans converge on him.
Clock keeps rolling, too.
Now, if you're going to do that, you got to get out of bounds.
Pickup of about 2 or 3.
I think he may just drop the ball. They lost a yard on the play.
Clock continues to run, 1:10 left. Strasser rolls out to his left, goes to the air, and it is incomplete. It was intended for Rick Hoffman. Very good coverage, credited to Ed Wysocki. And it will be third down.
It'll be third down and 8 at the 29-yard line.
There's just a minute and 5 seconds left, so they're going to have to try and... Actually, a medium pass would probably be better if they just pick up the first down and go out of bounds.
That's right.
Instead of trying to go real deep. And
yeah, whatever you do, you have to run a sideline pattern. You have to make sure the guy's got room to get out of bounds. Third down 7. They are going to go deep, and it is incomplete, almost intercepted. John Urich was right there.
Intended for Tarsitano. He's broken
It was
up by
intended for Rick Tarsitano.
Of course, the St. Francis safeties are playing way back, so they had the coverage. I kind of think if you throw under the coverage, you have a better chance in that situation. But
I see with a 4th down coming up.
I see.
Let's take a look at that last play, and
58 seconds
you
left
can
in the
see
game.
good coverage credited to John Urich. Watch for number 32. Right there. That's as good a position as you're going to see a defensive back get on a wide receiver. The ball again intended for Tarsitano. Just great position set up by John Urich.
Strasser now 6 of 12 on the game. And I have a couple more names I'd like to get in here.
All right,
we
go
have
right
to get
ahead.
the coaching staff in there because they've certainly, and the managers, because they've certainly put in a lot of time in preparation for this game as well. Maybe not as many bruises or aches and pains, but so we look at a future footballer, to say the least. For Immaculate Conception, the manager, Paul Powers, head coach John Padgett, assisted by Bill Pistorius and Jack Hill. St. Francis, manager Wally O'Keefe, head coach Bob O'Connor, assistants Jack Nyhill and Tom Santoria. Back we go, 4th down, 58 seconds left.
A lot of people got together to make this game a reality, the second one of its type, and they deserve a lot of credit.
At 8.
4th down and 7,
seconds
this is
left.
the ball game. Strasser drops back, and it is going to be
knock it down.
knocked down. It was intended for Bob Ivanek,
By Hanson.
but unfortunately Strasser was looking at Ivanek right out of the huddle practically, and so St. Francis was able to come over, triple team him, and knock the ball away, and that is going to do it. 52 seconds left, and now St. Francis is going to run out the clock. And another very difficult, I would imagine, to swallow loss for Immaculate Conception.
Well, hopefully they'll get over it, because a lot of these guys are friends with each other on both sides, and they can just go back to looking in the scrapbooks.
Pretty much now a matter of running out the clock.
Now, come to think of it, looking at IC, the sideline, I think the frustration of losing has given way to the relief of having this over with.
Too much time. So far, I haven't seen anybody with looking like a major injury, so maybe
That's right.
Flag appears to be a delay of game against St. Francis.
That's the 3rd delay of game
5-yard
call
walk-off.
against St. Francis.
1st down and 15.
So it'll be 1st down and 15 at the 34-yard line. And Walsh is just going to put his knee down on the turf. And timeout called by Immaculate Conception.
Said after the game, don't forget to push the
And was this kind of a preseason game for the cheerleading crew?
I guess it is. They get to work on their routines and practice as well.
Let's give these young men on the field and on the sidelines a nice hand.
We're scheduled to come back out here later this year, so we'll probably get to see their act later. And
let's talk a little bit about that. You had a chance to look over our schedule. I was excluded, but that's okay. I do know about the first game we've got going, and it will feature a gentleman that's regarded as possibly the best high school prospect, senior, in the entire state of Illinois, and that is Jeff Hecklinski of Palatine.
We have scheduled Palatine and Leiden. That is scheduled to be our first game of the season. And of course, the season kicking off here very shortly, so you'll be seeing much more of me, probably more than you ever wanted to, Mr. Agolnik.
No, that's not possible. Of course it is, but I don't want to tell you that.
We're going to be doing this on a regular basis shortly, it appears. That first game should be a dilly.
Walsh downs the ball.
Again, Walsh just puts the knee down, and that might run out the clock.
They may not have any timeouts left. There's only 35 seconds. And oop.
They stopped the clock again. Well, no, it's still going.
Maybe one more.
28 seconds. I think they're out of timeouts, so we're going to be heading home.
So it looks like, barring anything unreal, St. Francis is going to beat Immaculate Conception 6-0.
I think all we're missing was George Blandis field goals or something. And we'd have everybody here.
That'll do it.
Oh.
Final score, St. Francis 6, Immaculate Conception 0.
Well, that is the end of this game.
And I think at this point, these players are just relieved that that siren doesn't belong to the ambulance.
With the St. Francis Spartans.
They're tired, I know that.
6, Immaculate Conception.
Well, the only scoring of the game came many, many moons ago. A 1-yard touchdown run by Mike O'Neill, 4:52 left in the first quarter. And that's it for the scoring, 6-0. St. Francis wins it, and they are 2-0 in this grudge series between the stars of yesteryear.
Well, our thanks to Dennis Morris for joining us. We really appreciate you stopping by.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. It was very similar in a sense to this first reunion game where St. Francis was able to get a couple touchdowns in that game early and then just more or less hold on. So the same thing was true here, because I think fatigue and the heat, after about the first quarter when the adrenaline goes down and the heat starts coming up, it was really, really hard work for those guys. Because I don't know if nobody's under 30 out there, and some of them are over 40.
So for Dave Owen, I'm Mike Ogolnik. We'll see you down the road. Some very good high school action coming up right here on Continental Cablevision.
In the heat.